ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। Reading from Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 28. Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Incidents mentioned in the Vedic literature, such as the Puranas, Mahabharats, and Ramayana, are factual historical narrations that took place sometimes in the past. Although not in any chronological order, such historical facts, being intrusive for ordinary man, were assorted without chronological reference. Besides that, they happened on different planets, nay, in different universes, and thus the descriptions of the narrations is sometimes measured by three dimensions. We are simply concerned with the instructive lessons of such incidents, even though they are not in order by our limited range of understanding. Bhishma Dev described such narrations before Maharaj Yudhishthir in reply to his different questions. Text 29. While Bhishmadev was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere. This period is desired by the mystics who die at their will. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The perfect yogis or mystics can leave the material body at their own sweet will at a suitable time and go to a suitable planet desired by them. In Bhagavad Gita 8.24, it is said that self-realized souls who have exactly identified themselves with the interest of the Supreme Lord can generally leave the material body during this time of the fire god's effulgence and when the sun is in the northern horizon, and thus achieve the transcendental sky. In the Vedas, these times are considered auspicious for quitting the body, and they are taken advantage of by the expert mystics who have perfected the system. Perfection of yoga means attainment of such supermental states as to be able to leave the material body as desired. Yogis can also reach any planet within no time without a material vehicle. The yogis can reach the highest planetary systems within a very short time. This is impossible for the materialists. Even attempting to reach the highest planet will take millions of years at a speed of millions of miles per hour. This is different science, and Bhishma Dev knew well how to utilize it. He was just waiting for the suitable movement to quit his material body, and the golden opportunity arrived when he was instructing his noble grandsons, the Pandavas. He thus prepared himself to quit his body before the exalted Lord Sri Krishna, the pious Pandavas, and the great sages headed by Bhagwan Vyasa, etc. All great souls. Text 30. Thereupon, that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking and being completely free from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who stood before him, 400 dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the momentous hour of leaving his material body, Bhishmadev set the glorious example concerning the important function of the human form of life. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. Therefore, if one is absorbed in the thoughts of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, he is sure to go back to Godhead without any doubt. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.15, 8.5 to 15.5. And whoever at the time of death, okay, these are verses from Bhagavad Gita 5 to 15. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. He who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, Arjuna, is sure to reach me. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, being transcendental is beyond this material nature. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons learned in the Vedas who utter Omkara and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letter, if one thinks of the supreme personality of God and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to the temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Shri Bhishmadev attained the perfection of quitting his body at will and was fortunate enough to have Lord Shri Krishna, the object of his attention, personally present at the time of death. He therefore fixed his open eyes upon him. He wanted to see Shri Krishna for a long time out of his spontaneous love for him. Because he was a pure devotee, he had very little to do with the detailed performance of yogic principle. Simple bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhishmadev was to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Sri Bhishmadev had this opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. Text 31. So, the ardent desire of Bhishmadev was to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Bhishmadev had this opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. Amazing. I want to have that desire as well. Text 31. By pure meditation, looking at Sri Krishna, he at once freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all the external activities at his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The material body is a gift of a material energy, technically called illusion. Identification with the material body is due to the forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord. For a pure devotee of the Lord like Bhishma Dev, this illusion was at once removed as soon as the Lord arrived. Lord Krishna is like the sun, and the illusory external material energy is like darkness. In the presence of the sun, there is no possibility that darkness can stand. Therefore, just on the arrival of Lord Krishna, all material contamination was completely removed, and Bhishma Dev was able to be transcendently situated by stopping the activities of the impure senses in collaboration with the matter. The soul is originally pure, and so also the senses. By material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection and impurity. By revival of the contact with Supreme Pure Lord Krishna, the senses again become freed from material contamination. Bhishma Dev attained all these transcendental conditions prior to his leaving the material body because of the Lord's presence. The Lord is the controller and benefactor of all living beings. This is the verdict of all Vedas. He is the supreme eternity and living entity amongst all the eternal living beings. And he alone provides all the necessities of all kinds of living beings. Thus, he provided all facilities to fulfill the transcendental desire of the great devotee Bhishma Dev, who prayed as follows. I'll just read one Sanskrit where it's at Iti Shri Bhishma Uvacha Iti Mati Rupakal Pita Vitrishna Bhagavati Satvata Pungave Vibhumni Swasukhamupagate Kvachit Vihartum Prakriti Mubeyushiyat Bhava Pravaha Bhishma Stuti. Translation. Srila Bhishmadev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which was so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because Bhishma Dev was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty, a great general, and a leader of Kshatriyas, his mind was strewn over so many subjects, and his thinking, feeling, willing were engaged in different matters. Now, in order to achieve pure devotional service, he wanted to invest all powers of thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being. Lord Krishna, he is described herein as the leader of the devotees and all powerful. Although Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, he himself descends to the earth to bestow upon his pure devotees the boon of devotional service. He descends sometimes as Lord Krishna, as he is, and sometimes as Lord Chaitanya. Both are leaders of the pure devotees. Pure devotees of the Lord have no desire other than the service of the Lord, and therefore they are called sattvatas. The Lord is the chief amongst such sattvatas. Bhishma Dev therefore had no other desires. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. Desires cannot be wiped out, but they have only to be purified. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10 and 10 by the Lord Himself that He gives His instructions from the within the heart of a pure devotee who is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. Such instruction is not given not for any material purpose, but only for going back home, back to Godhead. For the ordinary man who wants to lord it over the material nature, the Lord only sanctions and becomes a witness of his activities, but he never gives the non-devotee instruction for going back to Godhead. That is the difference in dealings by the Lord with different living beings, both devotees as the Lord devotees. He is the leader of all the living beings, as the king of the state rules both the prisoners and free citizens. But his dealings are different in terms of devotee and non-devotee. Non-devotee never care to take any instruction from the Lord, and therefore the Lord is silent in their case. Although he witnesses all their activities and awards them necessary results, good or bad, the devotee are above the material goodness and badness. They are progressive on the path of transcendence, and therefore they have no desire for anything material. The devotee also knows Sri Krishna as the original Narayan, because Lord Sri Krishna, by his plenary portion, appears as the Karnodakshai Vishnu, the original source of all material creation. The Lord also desires the association of his pure devotees, and for them only the Lord descends to the earth to enlivens with them, enlivens them. The Lord appears out of his own will. He is not forced by conditions of material nature. He is therefore described here as the Vibhu, or the Almighty, for he is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. Text 33. Tribhuvana Kamalam Tamalavaranam Ravikara Gauravarambaram Dadane Vapural Kakula Vritananabjam Vijaya Sakhera Tirastume Navadya. Shri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on the earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in the three planetary systems, upper, middle, lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive results. Srila Prabhupada's purport. When Sri Krishna, by his own internal pleasure, appears on earth, he does so by the agency of his internal potency. The attractive features of his transcendental body are desired in all three worlds, namely the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Nowhere in the universe are there such beautiful bodily features as those of the Lord Krishna. Therefore, his transcendental body has nothing to do with anything materially created. Arjuna is described here as the conqueror and Krishna is described as the intimate friend. Bhishma Dev, on his bed of arrows after the battle of Kurukshetra, is remembering the particular dress of Lord Krishna which he put on as the driver of Lord Arjuna's chariot. While fighting was going on between Arjuna and Bhishma, Bhishma's attraction was drawn by the glittering dress of Krishna, and indirectly he admired his so-called enemy Arjuna for possessing the Lord as his friend. Arjuna was always a conqueror because the Lord was his friend. Bhishmadev takes this opportunity to address the Lord as Vijaya Sakhe, friend of Arjuna, because the Lord is pleased when he is addressed conjointly with his devotees who are related with him in different transcendental humors, while Krishna was the charioteer of Arjuna. Sun rays glisten on the dress of the Lord, and the beautiful hue created by the reflection of such rays was never forgotten by Bhishma Dev. As a great fighter, he was relishing the relation of Krishna in the chivalrous humor. Transcendental relation with the Lord in any one of the different rasas humans is relishable by the respective devotee in the highest ecstasy. Less intelligent maintainer who want to make a show of being transcendently related with the Lord artificially jump at once to the relation of conjugal love, imitating the damsels of Rajatha. Such a cheap relation with the Lord exhibits only the base mentality of the mundaner, because one who has relished conjugal humor with the Lord cannot be attached to worldly conjugal rasa, which is condemned even by the mundane ethics. The eternal relation of the particular soul with the Lord is evolved. A general relation of the living being with the Supreme Lord can take any form out of five principal rasas, and it does not make any in transcendental degree to the genuine devotee. Bhishma Dev is a concrete example of this, and it should be carefully observed how the great general is transcendently related to the Lord. Text 34. Yuditura garajo vidhumra vishwa kuchalulita samavaryalam kritasye mama nishita sarir विविद्यमाना त्वचि विलसत्कवचेस्तु कृष्ण आत्मा. Translation. On the battlefield where Shri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, his the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hoofs of the horses, and because of his labor, beads of sweat welted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go on to Sri Krishna, Sri Prabhupada's purport. The Lord is the absolute form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. As such, transcendental loving service to the Lord is in one five principal relations, namely Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Krishna, Krishna. Sorry. Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, i.e., neutrality, servitorship, fraternity, parental affection, and conjugal love, is graciously accepted by the Lord when offered with the Lord in genuine love and affection. Shri Bhishmadev is a great devotee of the Lord in the relation of the servitorship. Thus, his throwing of sharp arrows at the transcendental body of the Lord is as good as the worship of another devotee who throws soft roses to him. It appears that Bhishmadev was repenting the actions of committed actions he committed against the persons of the Lord, but factually the Lord's body was not at all pain due to the transcendental existence body. His body is not matter. He himself, both he himself and his body are completely spiritual identity. Spirit is never pierced, burnt, tried, motion, etc. This is vividly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So also it is stated in the Skanda Puran. It is said that their spirit is said there that spirit is always uncontaminated and indestructible. It cannot be distressed nor it can be dried up. When Lord Vishnu in his incarnation appears before us, he seems to be like one of the conditioned souls materially encamped just to bewilder the asuras and the non-believers who are always alert to kill Lord. Even from the very beginning of his appearance, Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna and Ravana wanted to kill Lord Rama because foolishly they were unaware of the fact that Lord is never killed, for the spirit is never annihilated. Therefore, Vishwadev, piercing of the body of Lord Krishna, is a sort of bewildering problem for the non-devotee atheist. But those who are devotees or liberated souls are not bewildered. Bhishmadev appreciated the all merciful attitude of the Lord because he did not leave Arjuna alone. Although he was disturbed by the sharpened arrows of Bhishmadev, nor he was reluctant to come before Bhishmadev's deathbed, even though he was ill treated by him on the battlefield. Bhishma's repentance and the Lord's merciful attitude are both unique in this picture. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a great acharya and devotee in the humor of conjugal love with the Lord, remarks very saliently in this regard. He says that of the wound created on the body of the Lord by the sharpened arrow of Bhishmadev were as pleasing to the Lords as biting of a fiancé who bites the Lord's body directly by a strong sense of sex desire. Such biting by the opposite sex is never taken as a sign of enmity, even if there is a wound on the body. Therefore, the fighting as an exchange of transcendental pleasure between the Lord and the pure devotee Shri Bhishmadev was not at all mundane. Besides that, since the Lord's body and the Lord are identical, there was no possibility of wounds on the absolute body. The apparent wounds caused by the sharpened arrows are misleading to the common man, but one who has a little absolute knowledge can understand the transcendental exchange in the chivalrous relation. The Lord was perfectly happy with the wounds caused by the sharpened arrows of Bhishmadev. The word Vidya Vibhidyamanam, Vividyamana, Vibhidyamana is significant because the Lord's skin is not different from the Lord, because our skin is different from our soul. In our case, the word Vibhidyamana or being bruised or cut would have been quite suitable. Transcendental bliss is of different varieties, and the varieties of activities in the mundane world is but a perverted reflection of transcendental bliss. Because everything in the mundane world is qualitatively mundane, it is full of inaberrations. Whereas in the absolute realm, because everything is of the same absolute nature, there are varieties of enjoyment without inaberration. The Lord enjoyed the wounds created by his great devotees Bhishmadev, and because Bhishmadev is devotee in the chivalrous relation, he fixes up his mind on Krishna in that wounded condition. Text 35. Sapadi sakhi vacho nishambhya madhe निज परयोर्बलयोरतं निवेश्य स्थितवती परसे निकायुरक्षा हितवती पार्थ सखे रते ममास्तु. In obedience to the command of his friend Lord Shri Krishna, entered the arena of the battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjuna and Duryodhana. While there, he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita 1.21 to 25, Arjuna ordered the infallible Lord Shri Krishna to take to place his chariot between the flanks of the soldiers. He asked him to stay there until he had finished observing the enemies he had to face in the battle. When the Lord was asked, he at once did so, just like an order carrier. And the Lord pointed out all the important men on the opposite side, saying, here is Bhishma, here is Drona, and so on. The Lord, being the supreme living being, is never the order supplier or the order carrier of anyone, whoever he may be. But out of his causeless mercy and affection for his pure devotees, sometimes he carries out the order of the devotee like an awaiting servant. By executing the order of a devotee, the Lord becomes pleased, as a father is pleased to carry out the order of his small child. This is possible only out of pure transcendental love between the Lord and his devotees, and Bhishmadev was quite aware of this fact. He therefore addressed the Lord as the friend of Arjuna. The Lord diminished the duration of his life of the opposite party by his merciful glance. It is said that all the fighters who assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained salvation by personally seeing the Lord at the time of death. Therefore, his diminishing the duration of life of Arjuna's enemy does not mean that he was partial to the cause of Arjuna. Factually, he was merciful to the opposite party because they would not have attained salvation by dying at home. In the ordinary course of life, here was a chance to see the Lord at the time of death and thus attain salvation from material life. Therefore, the Lord is all good, and whatever he does is for everyone's good. Apparently, it was for the victory of Arjuna, his intimate friend, but factually it was for good of Arjuna's enemies. Such are the transcendental activities of the Lord, and whoever understands this also gets salvation after quitting this material body. The Lord does not wrong in any circumstance because he is absolute, all good at all times. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Shri Gurudev. Jai Shri